Hi, I'm an European who has lived in Taiwan since 2004, so it's been almost 22 years. My work requires a lot of traveling. I travel all the times. Between 2004 and 19, I spent about 100 days every year traveling. From 2004 to 12, it was only Europe. Every year I traveled to Europe 4 to 5 times. Every time I visited about 5 to 15 countries. Then in 2012, I added to my traveling also South Africa, New Zealand and Australia, the United States, and a lot of traveling in Asia. I have been to Japan, Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, but most of my traveling in Asia were to China. I have been to China 88 times. Come on, it takes only 2 hours from Taipei airport to Shanghai and 3 hours to Beijing. So to make a little summary, I have been to 68 countries during those 22 years. I have flown about 2 million miles. That's about 2,000 flights, 1,600 flights, short distance or below 4 hours, and over 10 hours long distance flights, about 300, 350. And obviously I stay in a lot of hotels because I had to sleep somewhere. That's, I would say, probably 2,000 nights in different hotels. I will try to put together a few clips about my traveling. Let's start from the one about the most dangerous. I remember it was probably the third trip to Europe from Taiwan, 2005. I visited Austria, Germany, then I went to Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. Then from Hungary I drove through Croatia to Slovenia, and then from Slovenia, where I dropped my rental car, I took a train to Belgrade. I remember I arrived in Belgrade around midnight on Saturday, and I asked the driver to take me to a close hotel, a good hotel, let's say 4-star. And it took about 7 minutes to get there, and the driver asked me for 100 euros, and I asked him in Russian if he was kidding. He said no, he was not kidding, and he put the gun to my head and he asked for 100 euros. I gave him 100 and I left immediately. I went to the hotel, but it did not really look nice. There were hookers and, good fellas in the lobby. I went to my room, I saw cockroaches, and I said, no, this is not for me. It was Saturday night in the city center, a lot of drunk people. I, with a huge suitcase and a backpack, found another driver. The situation repeated again. Then I found a guy who was speaking good English, and he took me. I told him, just try to find something safe for me. And he took me to the best hotel in the city that time. I remember it was called Moscow or Moskva in the local language. It was super expensive, like 300 euros that time, but they found me a good tiny room. It was so tiny that once I put my luggage, I only had like 2 square meters where I could move. Put my computer on the table and I was doing some work. And then I rent a car, I visited a few customers in Serbia, and I decided to go to Bulgaria. But one important thing, when I was renting a car, they told me we don't allow our customers to visit Bulgaria, the rental company Avis. And I had to pay for extra insurance and also to sign some kind of a document that I acknowledge that driving in Bulgaria with a Serbian car, with a Serbian plate number is not very safe. I did not really care about that, so I drove to Bulgaria. And once I arrived at the border, they asked me to pay 20 euros. I asked for what? They did not answer, they just repeated 20 euros. So I paid 20 euros, I got no receipt, no explanation, no nothing. I said, fine. I continued driving. Once I hit the highway, there were cars overtaking me and suddenly hitting brakes, braking in front of me, just trying to, to have an accident. And it happened 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Finally, because I had a good car, I had a good BMW, so I hit the gas pedal and I drove pretty fast. I think it was like 140 for that highway. It was pretty dangerous. It does not really take that long from the border to the big city Sofia, which is like a 55 minutes drive. And once I arrived in the city center on the first red light, 2 cars approached me from right and the left. I saw in the mirror knives and they cut my both tires. I remember I watched a program on TV that the worst thing in this kind of situation is leaving a car. So basically on the red light, and I escaped, and on flat tires I drove to the nearest gas station. They repaired one of my tires, but they said that the second was so damaged that they could only replace that with a spare one. That one required additional work. I was shaking because this kind of thing first time happened in my life, and I remember the closest hotel was Sheraton. I went to Sheraton. I remember they required 200 or 300 euros per night. I said no, and then I drove and I found another hotel. Explained the situation to the front desk and they told me what to do. They introduced me to a 24-hour tire shop around that place. Went to my room. I could not sleep. Around 2 in the morning I decided to go to another city where I had my meeting, which is called Plovdiv. But before going there I went to this tire repair shop and I asked the guy to repair my tire, but apparently he thought I was a rich guy from somewhere, I don't know. So he needed pick up the phone and call someone telling that there is an American businessman. I do have a strong European accent, but he probably could not tell where I was from. And within like 10 minutes, there were 2 cars in front of that store, that shop. And I was lucky because police arrived also to repair their tire. And I explained them with my Russian language that there is something wrong about them. And they said they could escort me to the highway, but it cost $100. I was a little confused how this is possible that the policeman can ask someone for escort for $100. I said fine, I gave him $100, but he said 100 per person. There were 2 of them, so I had to spend $200, and they escorted me to the highway, and they told me now you're fine, you're safe, you can go. I remember it started snowing that time. I was driving on the highway, but like 20 minutes later, I saw in my mirror that those cars, because it was early in the morning. Remember that I started 2 in the morning. It was about 3, 4 in the morning. I was driving on the highway, and I saw 2 cars were approaching me from the back. I was already so tired after the first accident that happened. And then all the stuff that happened in Bulgaria. So I was driving already 100 on the snow, and I lost control over my car, and I had like a 590 degrees slide, and I hit and destroyed my trunk. I stopped my car, and I saw the guy left his car and he was approaching me with a gun. I turned the engine on and I started driving against the flow and the traffic flow on the highway. I reached the first train station. I started screaming there and I asked them to call police, and police arrived and they said there is nobody here because they left. And the policeman told me they could do nothing. So they said, the only thing we could do is to escort you. Remember, escort you to your customer. It was a pretty long drive, but they asked for $300 for 2 guys. I paid $300, arrived in Plovdiv. They left me at the parking. I went to have a meeting with that customer, and he explained me that it is not really safe to drive a brand new BMW with Serbian plates in Bulgaria. And the guy, the owner of the company, it was a huge company, like 1,000 people working there. He called somebody, and the big BMW arrived, and 2 bald guys, very big. They escorted me and they drove with me all the way back to Sofia. I went to the same hotel. I slept one night, and then like early in the morning